Bordeaux is a city with everything, from towering cathedrals, elegant shopping streets, fascinating history, yummy food, and of course lots and lots of wine. Here is the top 10 from our recent visit to this charming and wonderful city. But stick around to the end as I have a few bonus locations as well. Our first location is the super famous Place de la Bourse, which is probably the most iconic and photographed place in the city. Designed and built between 1735 and 1738, it is one of the best representative works of 18th century neoclassical French architecture. With its elegant cream-coloured stone facade, it epitomises much of the character and charm of the city, and is part of the city's UNESCO World Heritage Site. Located on the banks of the River Gironde, Place de la Bourse is the one place you will want to take some good photos, and just across the street is a modern reflecting pool where you can... Oh wait, I went in November and the water was switched off. Okay, but you get the picture. Depending on time of year, there might be water here where you can take great shots. Even if you visit off season like me, then it's worth coming here as it looks very cool, especially in the evenings. There is more here as well. On one side of the Place de la Bourse is a small but fascinating Musée National des Douanes. I probably pronounced that wrong, and no doubt someone will mention that in the comments, so I will take this opportunity to apologise for my terrible pronunciation throughout this video. Anyway, the museum is about the history of the customs administration, which deals with the import and export of goods in this key maritime city. It's small and fascinating, so make sure you pop in for a look. Next up is the Cathedral of Bordeaux, which is a large and magnificent medieval Gothic cathedral which dates from the 12th century, but with most of its architecture now being from the 14th and 15th centuries. Unusually, it has a very plain west front, as this part was originally very close to some old buildings, so the main exterior focal point is the twin spires on the north transept. They look especially cool as they are framing the huge door portal, which is probably where you're going to enter the building from. These look especially awesome when viewed from the nearby street. It's definitely worth having a stroll around the exterior of the building to admire the intricate Gothic architecture, not to mention other interesting historic buildings that surround it, such as the town hall. The interior of the cathedral is also not to be missed. It has a very long nave, which is also unusual for a French Gothic cathedral in that it doesn't have side aisles and feels almost tunnel-like. Still, it's very impressive. This contrasts with the choir, which is more typical of Gothic architecture, with its long, slender, clustered piers with large stained glass windows and elegant rib-vaulted ceiling. I love looking around Gothic churches like this, so if you do, then stick around as I will show you more later in the video. Just outside of the cathedral is the Beaux Tower, which was built in the flamboyant style of Gothic. You can go inside and up to a viewing platform. However, there are limited tickets for this, so I recommend booking in advance by visiting the ticket office in the base of the tower. Once in, you will have an exhausting climb up the spiral staircase with over 200 steps, which turned my legs to jelly, but it was well worth it as the views from the top were stunning, especially looking over the cathedral, where you get great views of the flying buttresses, which is so typical a feature of Gothic architecture. The next location is a very short stroll from the cathedral and is the Museum of Fine Arts. The main collection is housed in two separate wings at the back of the Palais Rohan, which is a part of the town hall complex. There is also a pleasant garden to explore here as well. The museum's collection includes paintings and sculptures and drawings from the 15th century to the 20th century. Here are a few highlights. Just up the street is a small annex of the museum which has temporary exhibitions which you might want to check out as well. Bordeaux also has a modern art museum, the name of which I will put on the screen as there is no way I can pronounce that. It's located near the river, so it's about a 20-minute walk from the cathedral. The museum was established in 1973 and is housed in a large warehouse complex with a very impressive central space. It has a mixture of permanent and temporary exhibitions, so you might see something different if you visit, but there is a lot of variety and it was interesting to explore the different spaces and works of art. Definitely a must-see if you're an art lover. Bordeaux is world famous for being the centre of a large wine growing region, so no trip to the city is complete without getting a better understanding of its delicious grape juice. The city is full of wine shops and wine cellars, and you can also book tours to nearby chateaux and vineyards. The main wine attraction is the Cité du Vin. It's a little way out of the city centre, so you will need to jump on the tram that runs along the banks of the river to reach it, and you can also reach it via boat. While you're in the area, it's worth having a quick stroll on the river where you get some nice views of Bordeaux, especially this modern bridge, which looks really cool at night when it's all lit up. The views along the river back toward the city centre are also not to be missed. The Cité du Vin is a giant modern wine museum housed in a large and memorable modern building, which has a curved form to recall both a wine turning in a glass and the curves of the River Gironde on which it sits. It's one of the most expensive attractions of the city, but if you're interested in wine then it's unmissable. It was opened in 2017 and inside you will find a series of interactive exhibitions detailing winemaking from all over the world. These exhibitions are varied and interesting. Many can be interacted with, such as this one where you can pretend to crush grapes. As smell is such an important part of wine tasting, there is also an exhibition where you can smell the various grapes and aromas. For me, the most important part of the museum is on the top floor, where there is a bar, where you can get a complimentary glass of wine to enjoy while looking over the city from the exterior balcony. Cheers! There is also a shop where you can buy wine, lots and lots of wine. So if wine's your thing, you gotta come here. For a more traditional wine experience, there is another smaller wine museum nearer the city centre, which is housed in an 18th century wine merchant's house. Inside you can explore the long tunnel-like cellars to marvel at all the fascinating wine-related artefacts, as well as visit the top to buy more wine. To top off the visit, there is a complimentary wine tasting session with a knowledgeable guide who will explain how to taste wine as well as give great insight into the flavours and aromas. Overall, this was a more personal and enjoyable experience than the bigger modern museum, so if wine is your thing, then definitely make sure you don't miss this place. The next location is right across the road from the Cité du Vin, so I recommend to visit at the same time. In fact, wine and food, they go well together, so they are very complementary. This is the Les Halles du Bacalan, which is a giant modern food hall. We liked this so much we ended up visiting twice, and I recommend to visit just before lunch to get a seat as this place got very busy very quickly. Inside there is a lot of food stalls selling all sorts of mouth-watering dishes and snacks. I wish there were places like this where I live, as everything here was really yummy, and I just wish that I could have returned a few more times to try a few more dishes. There is also another big food hall on the other side of the city near the main train station, which is more local and traditional and full of many tasty things. I read somewhere it's often referred to as the belly of Bordeaux, so it's also worth having a look around if you are nearby. The next location is near the Cité du Vin as well, and is the Sea and Maritime Museum. This is one of the best museums in Bordeaux, especially for someone like me who is fascinated by ships. Housed in a modern building, it was opened in 2017 and you can't miss it as it has a giant silver shark outside. The collections are spread over a few floors and in chronological order, making it easy to follow and understand, and each section has an impressive collection of varied artifacts. The main highlights for me were the various ship models, many of which were incredibly detailed and intricate. I especially love the collection of World War II and modern era ships, including many famous ones from all over the world. Some like this one are also very big and you could walk all the way around it. Sticking with the nautical theme, and not far from the Maritime Museum, is one of the most unique and controversial locations in Bordeaux, which is the gigantic Bordeaux submarine base. This huge reinforced concrete structure was built by the Nazis during the occupation of France in World War II and was used to house and service the U-boats that terrorized the Atlantic Ocean during the conflict. The main building is 245 metres long, 162 metres wide and 20 metres high. It has 11 cells where the subs could be docked and kept safe from Allied bombers. Over 600,000 square metres of concrete were used in its construction, and it was built by thousands of workers, many of whom were prisoners of war, and reportedly over 70 died during construction. The building was mostly abandoned after World War II until being reopened in 2020 as a cultural centre housing the Bassins de Lumières, or Pool of Lights. This has turned many of the large interior spaces which used to house the submarines into light, visual and audio experiences. These change every year, and on our visit the main projections were showing images from the famous surrealist artist Dali. It was very interesting and enjoyable, however I was a little disappointed that there was only a tiny exhibition explaining the history of the location. I think it would be fascinating if one of the other halls could be opened to show a bit more of the dark history of this place. Bordeaux has a number of nice parks, and our favourite of which is the Jardin public, which I guess means public garden. It was founded in 1746 and has many relaxing, winding paths with a lovely lake with small islands, bridges and lots of birds. It's really relaxing and fun to explore and makes a nice break from the dense city streets. Running through the middle of the park is the Palais du Cathédrale, the purpose of which is unclear, but it looks very cool. On the edge of the park is the Science and Nature Museum. Although on the small side, it's worth going in to have a look, as it's full of interesting exhibits, especially its spectacular central hall, complete with giant whale skeleton and glass cabinets full of hundreds of stuffed animals' bones and skeletons. There is also a human skeleton, amongst other interesting things. Just around the corner from the museum are the giant ruins of the ancient Roman amphitheatre called Palais Gallien. It's set in a nice park which was unfortunately closed when we visited, but you can get great views of this impressive structure from the nearby streets, which give a good idea of how big this would have been back in ancient times. So another one not to be missed when you're in this area. If anyone is a regular viewer of my channel, you will know I'm fond of church architecture, and Bordeaux has many fine churches beyond the cathedral. There are too many to add to a top 10, so instead, here is a short montage of my favourite ones with some info so you can decide which are interesting to you without having to listen to me waffling on about vaulted ceilings, flying buttresses and other nerdy things. Our 10th location is probably the best museum in Bordeaux, and it is the Muséum of Aquitaine, which is all about the history of Bordeaux and the surrounding region. The museum is housed in an impressive historical building that in the past had been a school and then a university before becoming a museum in the 1960s. The collection houses over 70,000 objects that explain the history and culture of the city, and its region from prehistory up until the modern day. There are also over 5,000 pieces of art from Africa and elsewhere in the world exploring the maritime influence of the city. The museum is very big and you can easily spend a day in here looking at all the fascinating objects. We especially enjoyed the many artefacts from ancient times, the highlights being the ones from the ancient Roman era when Bordeaux was an important location for the Roman Empire. There is also an extensive collection of medieval objects, including many artefacts removed from various buildings, such as this large rose window. On the upper floors are more recent artefacts, some from the colonial era, many of which delve into the somber topics such as the slave trade. Overall, it's a fantastic museum and not to be missed. And that's the top 10, but Bordeaux has so much more to offer, so I wanted to mention a few other things to look out for as you explore the city. Firstly, the old town itself is simply wonderful. It is full of stunning historic buildings and is really interesting to simply wander around and get lost in. It's no surprise it's a UNESCO World Heritage City. I can't think of many other large cities with such harmonious architecture. Almost every building you pass is ornate and elegant, and many are like wall-to-wall small palaces. Cutting through the city is the famous Rue Saint-Catherine, which at 1.2 kilometers long is often cited as being the longest shopping street in Europe. So if shopping is your thing, then you will love this street, especially as it's pedestrianised, making it very nice to walk along. As you explore the stunning streets of Bordeaux, you should also treat yourself to one of Bordeaux's specialty foods, the cannelli, which is a small pastry flavoured with rum and vanilla with a thick caramelised crust. These are delicious, so make sure you try one, or better yet, buy an entire box. Another thing you will notice as you explore the old town are the many historic gates. These are all from when the city had a wall going around it. Some are now simple arches, but others are the original gatehouses. The most interesting one is the Porte Cathedral, which dates from 1494. This one can be entered, where inside you can explore a small exhibition from the location's history, as well as windows on the top floor that allow nice views over the city and the river. The other interesting tower gate is a Grosser clock, which means big bell for obvious reasons. It's sometimes open for guided tours, but not on our visit. Still, we were happy just to look around at this splendid looking building. Speaking of splendid buildings, the city also has a Grand Opera House, which can also be toured at certain times. We didn't take the tour, but were allowed into the lobby to explore this very grand and impressive staircase, so pop in if you're in the area. The final location is the massive Place des Capucins, which is one of the largest city squares in Europe. At one end is the famous and impressive fountain monument of the Girondins, which is dedicated to the memory of the Girondins, who were a political group during the French Revolution that were eventually killed in mass executions, marking the start of the Reign of Terror. The monument and fountains are very impressive, although sadly there was no water in the fountain when we visited in the winter. And that's it for Bordeaux. Let me know in the comments below if I missed anything important or horribly mispronounced anything. Thanks for watching and cheerio!